Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the life of a guy whose personal story is literally woven into the very foundation of the American Southwest. I'm talking about Byron T. Mills. He was an architect, a meticulous archivist, and an absolutely foundational figure in Las Vegas, New Mexico. And just to be clear, we aren't talking about the Las Vegas of neon lights and casinos here. We're talking about the original Las Vegas, which was this critical, bustling commercial hub out on the frontier. Over the next few minutes, we're going to take a chronological, documentary-style look at Mills's life, his profound cultural impact, and how the legacy of just one individual can quite literally shape and preserve a city's destiny for generations.
Before we get too deep into the weeds, let's lay out a quick roadmap of his life. Mills arrived in Las Vegas in 1882. By 1918, he had purchased the iconic Plaza Hotel. Fast forward to 1946, he donated an absolutely unprecedented historical archive, and then he passed away in 1947. You'll see that his personal timeline directly parallels the evolution of the city itself. So to truly understand Byron T. Mills is to witness the total transformation of Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Here is a quick look at what we're going to cover in this explainer. First, the frontier arrival in 1882. Second, his civic and legal leadership. Third, the stewardship of the Plaza Hotel. Fourth, the archivist's legacy. And finally, his final years and lore.
Okay, let's jump into Section 1, the frontier arrival, 1882.
Picture this, it's 1882, and when Mills arrives, he has to navigate a pretty complex geographical and political divide. At the time, Las Vegas was actually the largest and wealthiest city in the territory, but it had a real dual identity, separated right down the middle by the Rio Gallinés. On one side, you had Old Town. That was the traditional Spanish-speaking settlement originally established by a Mexican land grant back in 1835. But on the other side was New Town. This was an Anglo-centric, rapidly expanding commercial hub that just exploded after the railroad laid tracks a mile east in 1879. So Mills was stepping right into the twilight of the old Santa Fe Trail and the absolute dawn of the Industrial Railroad era.
Now, 1882 was a huge deal for another reason. It was the exact same year the Plaza Hotel was completed. Built as a totally first-class establishment with 37 original guest rooms, this magnificent Victorian structure boasted 14-foot ceilings, these huge windows overlooking Plaza Park, and fanciful scrolls that made it look kind of like a giant wedding cake. People immediately recognized it as the finest hotel in the state. It even earned the nickname, the Belle of the Southwest. At this point, a young Mills could only look at the hotel from the outside, completely unaware that it was going to eventually define his life's work. Moving on to Section 2, Civic and Legal Leadership.
Over the next few decades, Mills developed a multifaceted civic career that became deeply intertwined with the city's massive growth. As a prominent attorney, he was operating during a highly volatile period of litigation. That transition from Mexican to American law required some incredibly specialized legal knowledge just to navigate all the complex land grants and railroad rights-of-way. Well, Mills possessed exactly that expertise. His success in the legal arena fueled his side hustle as a real estate land promoter and speculator. Ultimately, his influence grew so much that he was elected mayor of Las Vegas. He actually presided over the city during its progressive modernization era, which was exactly when the city gained electric street railways and prominent educational institutions.
That brings us to Section 3, Stewardship of the Plaza Hotel. Having built up some serious wealth through his real estate and legal ventures, Mills officially took ownership of the Belle of the Southwest around 1918. And he didn't just own it on paper, he lived there. He managed the property for decades straight out of room 310 on the third floor. Mills really bore witness to the hotel's entire life cycle. He steered it through the Roaring '20s, the Great Depression, and right into the challenging economic shifts of the mid-20th century. This was a time when a lot of historic frontier properties were simply abandoned or even destroyed. His stubborn dedication is a prime example of how individual stewardship can literally preserve history for future generations. But that leads us to a stunning, historically documented moment in 1945. The hotel had fallen into a really severe state of neglect. According to records from New Mexico Magazine, Mills actually began selling off the hotel's furniture, actively preparing to dismantle and demolish the entire three-story structure. He was even quoted saying, "I almost feel guilty about the demolition. It certainly is an old landmark." Yet, for reasons that totally remain a mystery to historians today, Mills halted his plans. He inexplicably spared the building, a decision that single-handedly saved the architectural anchor of the Las Vegas Historic Plaza. Talk about a close call. Let's look at Section 4, the archivist's legacy.
What you're seeing documented is the monumental collection Mills donated to the Rogers Library at New Mexico Highlands University in 1946, just shortly before his death. While everyone knew Mills as a loud and proud land promoter and mayor, he was also a quiet, meticulous archivist behind the scenes. He spent his life preserving the printed history of the transition of the Southwest from territorial status all the way into statehood. This is exactly why his story matters today. Without individuals obsessively cataloging these transitional periods, the foundational narratives of entire regions would just be lost to time.
The sheer volume of this donation is absolutely staggering. We are talking 139 bound volumes of early Western newspapers spanning from California to Texas and even down into Mexico. It offered incredible regional depth, featuring over 80 distinct New Mexico titles alone, alongside some really invaluable photographic and municipal records. In fact, this donation was so overwhelmingly massive that an understaffed university library literally had to leave it in storage for 7 whole years before they even had the resources to begin cataloging it. For sure, it remains a cornerstone primary source collection for historians of the Southwest today.
And finally, Section 5, Final Years and Lore. In 1947, Byron T. Mills passed away at the local Elks Lodge in Las Vegas. His physical life had ended, but as the town moved into the latter half of the 20th century, his legacy took on a highly unusual second life. He transitioned from a documented historical figure into the resident ghost of the Plaza Hotel. Specifically, he's said to haunt room 310, which, as we know, is the exact suite where he had lived for years.
Today, this folklore is documented as a totally unique cultural phenomenon. Guests and staff consistently report specific, repeated occurrences up in room 310. We're talking physical interactions, like the sounds of drawers opening on their own, or the sudden sensation of someone sitting down on the edge of the bed. There are olfactory signs, too, most notably the distinct smell of cigar smoke out of nowhere, which is wild considering the hotel is strictly non-smoking, sometimes accompanied by the scent of a lady's perfume. There's even a photograph allegedly capturing his spectral presence that staff reportedly keep tucked right behind the front desk. This folklore has become a massive draw for modern tourism, permanently intertwining his history with the town's modern economy.
This lore became so culturally cemented that it physically manifested into the hotel's modern branding. In 2006, the hotel's lobby bar was officially renamed Byron T. Saloon. Designed to evoke the 1880s, the saloon's owners explicitly note that the branding leans hard into his reputation. Any minor, unexplained occurrences in the bar are usually just written off by the staff as Mills reminding everyone that he is still the life of the party. His name is forever locked into the daily life and commerce of Las Vegas.
So what does this all mean? We arrive at our conclusion with a pretty provocative question for you to consider. Does the legend of Byron T. Mills persist purely because of unexplained spooky phenomena? Or is folklore simply the ultimate cultural mechanism for a city to keep its most important history alive? It's pretty amazing to think that a man who spent his entire life preserving the civic, architectural, and archival past of Las Vegas is now himself perfectly preserved in the ghost stories of the very hotel he saved. It really is a fascinating cycle of history. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.